This week on Africa Weekly. We're heading to Kenya to bask in the Obamania which has overtaken the country for the US president's visit. Then we're off to a farm in Benin, where a priest is fighting poverty with organic vegetables. And we're going to New York, but we'll be taking Africa with us as we visit a man who has amassed an impressive collection of art from all 54 African countries. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. Barack Obama arrives in Kenya, his first visit to his fatherland since becoming president. In another first for a US head of state, he will also travel to Ethiopia. In Burundi, this week's presidential elections were marred by an opposition boycott, widespread violence, and condemnation by the international community. Analysts say victory and a controversial third term for Pierre Nkurunziza could leave the Central African nation isolated. 11 people were killed in twin suicide bombings by 2 young girls in northern Cameroon. The region has been regularly attacked by Boko Haram militants since Cameroon joined a coalition fighting the jihadists. On the same day, over 50 people died in Nigeria in a series of blasts and raids by Islamist gunmen. On a visit to Washington, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari lashed out at American foreign policy, blaming an arms ban for hampering the fight against Boko Haram. The landmark trial of former Chadian dictator Hissène Habré in Senegal has been adjourned until the 7th of September. Habré is accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity and torture during his reign, but has refused to recognise what he brands an illegitimate tribunal. Rights groups say 40,000 Chadians were killed under Habré's regime. Film star George Clooney has launched a project which aims to put an end to conflicts in Africa by tracking the money that fuels them. The Sentry will monitor and report on the financing of the continent's deadliest conflicts to unearth links between corruption, violence, and the exploitation of natural resources. Weeks of preparation will finally come to a head as President Obama begins a tour of East Africa in Kenya, where Obamania has reached fever pitch.
Welcome, President Obama. On the eve of the US president's visit to Kenya, the homeland of his father, the country is obsessed with the return of the prodigal son.
He's from here, he's one of our own, and we are really prepared to welcome him and give him a heroic surprise.
As Kenyans, we're excited, obviously. Obama is a big part of us. So we're happy.
Obamania has invaded Kenya's capital of Nairobi. In this trendy brasserie, the boss even launched a beer and a cocktail in honor of the US president. Beyond his clients, he would like to see the most powerful man in the world taste his beer.
I got a 10-liter keg waiting just in case anyone calls me to deliver it to him, because that would be a great honor.
Barack Obama has long delayed this homecoming, largely due to the indictment of the Kenyan president by the International Criminal Court for crimes against humanity. But now, with those charges dropped, the two presidents will meet to discuss trade and security.
Kenya is a leader in the East Africa community, one of the more dynamic blocs in Africa. It's a critical ally of the United States in regional stability and counterterrorism. It bears the brunt on its border and, unfortunately, with attacks in Kenya by Al-Shabaab and other extremist groups. It also is a country that's opened its doors to hundreds of thousands of refugees, some for almost 2 decades now and beyond. And so, for all those reasons, it's very important.
Barack Obama will attend a global entrepreneurship summit in front of thousands before traveling on Sunday to Ethiopia to discuss a range of issues, including governance, with the leaders of the African Union.
Organic tomatoes and chicken droppings turned into biogas. At the Songhai farm in Benin, nothing goes to waste. In the 30 years since it was set up by Godfrey Nzamujo, it's become a model for farming in Africa. Its aims? maximise yields without using chemicals, which are expensive for farmers and harmful to health.
Ce n'est pas n'importe quelle production, mais une production saine.
It's not just any production, but clean production, a production which ensures good health for producers, consumers and for the soil. We really put agriculture at the centre of nature and people.
From just one parcel of land in 1985, Songhai now sprawls over 24 hectares. All the produce is grown and distributed on site, creating a microeconomy.
We fixed this image of Africa, Africa holding out its hand, Africa the victim. But when you look at the young people today, they're standing tall, ready to fight and to seize the future.
Every day, an army of staff and apprentices get their hands dirty, growing fruit, vegetables and rice, whilst also tending fish and raising livestock. Paul wants to follow his parents into farming, but make it more profitable.
With modern methods, things take less time. What we used to do in 2 days, we now do in 2 hours. That's what's impressed me most at Songhai.
As well as tackling the challenges of poverty and the environment, Songhai prizes education, and it's also a school. Every year, 400 students are selected and trained. Back in their villages, they'll put modern organic techniques into practice. Songhai has been used as a blueprint to take the concept outside Benin. Centres are already open in Nigeria, Sierra Leone and Liberia. And with 13 other countries in West and Central Africa in the pipeline, many farms will be hoping to put their experience at Songhai into practice.
There are cramped New York apartments, and then there's the Brooklyn home of Eric Edwards, filled with what he estimates to be a $10 million collection of African art. Every inch is full of statues, masks and drums, with some items dating back thousands of years to ancient Nubian kingdoms. Eric says it was his father who taught him the importance of his African heritage.
So his purpose in teaching us African history and culture was to give us some sort of an inoculation, if you will, against racism. He wanted to make sure that we knew something about our history.
He caught the collecting bug early on, originally focusing on audio equipment and the huge record collection, which he still has. But from the early 1970s, financed by his high-paying job with the AT&T phone company, his focus shifted to African art. Some of his artifacts, like this enormous ceremonial drum, are set for display at New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art. But now he's seeking a permanent home for all of them, and has launched a campaign on the Kickstarter crowdfunding website to raise money and awareness. But the motivation to build the museum isn't just to free up some space at home. Eric hopes the project will create some understanding in a society with rising racial tensions.
We're at an impasse for sure as far as connectivity and communication between the races and appreciation of the races. And I can't see a better way to bring people together than through the appreciation of the African artifacts and the stories that they tell.
Eric hopes to see the museum open its doors as soon as next year.
Tennis star Roger Federer swapped his racket for a pair of scissors to cut to the ribbon at a new childcare centre in Malawi, funded by his foundation. In a country where almost 1.5 million children have no access to preschool education, Federer's foundation aims to provide support to about 150,000 Malawian children by 2021. Next week, we'll be going underground in South Africa, where women are trying to change the macho culture in the mining industry, despite reports of persistent sexual harassment. And we'll meet the man proving that laughter really is the best medicine for Zimbabwe. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.